Hi, I'm Hank. This is going to be a tutorial on how to use custom BlockBench models with custom NPCs using the Chameleon mod. What this is not going to be is a tutorial on how to use the Chameleon mod. So McHorse, the Chameleon mod author, has already made several tutorials on how to use Chameleon, and there's no way I could ever do it better. So I will link those tutorials that he's made in the description. Watch those first, then come back to these. Those tutorials will cover how to import your BlockBench models into the game, and then this tutorial will cover how to use those BlockBench models that you've already imported on custom NPCs. Another thing that I need to say right off the bat is that this is only for 1.12.2, okay? This only works in 1.12.2, okay? Look at the sign. This only works in 1.12.2, okay? I think it's about it. So this is the model I'm going to be using in today's showcase. This model was made by Trinitix, the author and leader of the Blackheart project. I'll be linking that in the description as well. Here on this model, I have a few animations. There's an idle animation. There are 2 attack animations. And then there is a running/walking animation. Now, something important to note is that these need to be named very specific things in order for the Chameleon mod to pick them up. The idle animation needs to be named idle, the walking and running animation needs to be named running specifically, and then any attack animations you want it to use by default need to be named swipe. But right now I just have them named as attack 1 and attack 2 because using the mod we'll be able to assign them to the swipe action. Okay, so let's do that first. Let's assign the different animations to the swipe action. So right-click, edit the morph. So this is the model. As you can see, it's kind of small. That's fine. If you make the model in a smaller scale in BlockBench, you can just scale it back up with Chameleon. Let's set this to 6. I think it's a good size. There we go. And then go to Actions over here. And then scroll all the way down to the swipe animation. So this is what's going to play whenever he attacks. Let's select the attack 1 for now, and then acquire. So now we have a morph here that has the attack animation. If we were to just load up the default morph here, it's the tiny one, and if I attack, there's no attack animation. I accidentally broke the carpet. My bad. There we go. So this is the one that has the attack animation. Now, if we want the other attack animation, we just do the same thing. Go to the morph, edit the morph, fix the size because we don't want it to be tiny. Then edit the actions, go to swipe, and then make the swipe action 2. Then acquire. So now we have our 2 different ones. So this one has the first attack, and then this one, I'll morph it real quick, has the second attack. I'm done being that guy for now. Now that we have the 2 models set up with the correct animations, now what we need to do is apply it to the entity selectors. What this is going to do is have the game automatically put the models that you select using entity selectors onto the entities. Right here you can see it set up for Dilip, the NPC that I used in the previous showcase. But now we're going to set it up for this guy, for Dead Boy. We're going to make a new one. Then we're going to name it Dead Boy. Let's just do type here. Type is the entity type that you want this to overwrite the model of. If you put a star, it'll just overwrite any entity who's named Dead Boy. If you want it to be specifics, like if you're worried about players naming a cow Dead Boy or something like that, you can type the custom NPC's entity name here and it can fix. And then matching NBT, we'll do that in a second. That's how we're going to get the different models to switch. Something you may have noticed by now is we have 2 different models for 2 different attacks. That's because each model can only have 1 attack animation active at any given time. So in order to have the NPC use multiple different attack animations, we're actually going to be swapping which model is on the NPC. But we're going to be doing that with the scripts behind the scenes, so it's not going to appear to the player like the model is switching, just the animation is going to switch. So here, now we're going to select the model, pick the morph, we'll do the first one. So that's done. So any entity named Dead Boy is going to be given this model. So let's spawn a build, do that. Let's name you Dead Boy. There we go. Now he has the new model. Now if we check his attack animation, as you can see, he has the animation, but it's not quite looking right. There are 3 limitations that we're dealing with here. The first limitation is, as you can see, the damage happens instantly. The second limitation is that any additional melee attacks will restart the animation. We also don't want that. And then the third limitation is the one I mentioned earlier, where the model can only have 1 animation active at any given time. So those are our 3 limitations. Now there are multiple ways to deal with these limitations. I used a different way of dealing with them with Dilip here. As you can see, this script is quite long. I'm going to be showing ways of dealing with these limitations in a much more manageable, beginner-friendly way. From there, you should be able to take what we develop on this guy and expand it out however far you want it to be. There's multiple ways you could get around these issues. Some ways are better than others, but this is just one way I'm going to be showing you how to do it. So first, we need to set things up so that we can have the custom NPC use multiple different models. How we're going to do that is we're going to do that using matching NPT. Now I like to do it with the title because I don't use titles otherwise. If you wanted to, you could give the NPT a different tag and then change this NPT tag instead of changing the title throughout the script. But we're just going to do the title. So we're going to do 1 for the first attack animation here. That should update now, so this should go away because Billup does not have the 1 title. So if we give him the 1 title, there we go. Now let's do the second one. Let's add a new one. Dead boy. Type star for any, matching NPT. Title 2. And then this one will pick the morph for the second one. So now when Billup's title changes, the attack animation should change. So now it's 1, so it should have that first attack animation. As you can see, it does. Now if we set it to 2 here, it should now have the second attack animation. And there we go, we have it. Although it still has that problem of resetting whenever another attack happens. We'll be able to fix that. Let's keep it on 1 for now. So there's a fourth limitation that I forgot to mention. I'll be able to show this here for a second. It's that the model does not change instantaneously. There's a little bit of time between when you update the entity's NPT and when the model animation actually gets replaced. I'll set up a little script here to get the NPC's title. So I just essentially just set up a little toggle here. It gets the title. If the title is 1, change the title to 2. If the title is 2, change the title to 1. So this will let us manually swap it. However, we're going to change this to 1 and 3 for now, because 3 doesn't have an entity selector. That will change it. Neither of these will be valid, so we'll go back to the billet model, right? 3 goes back to the billet model. So I'll tell you when I click. Okay, clicked, then the model changes. Clicked, then the model changes, right? There's a delay here. Let me put an NPC say here, so I don't have to say clicked, and you can actually see it. Oh, there we go. Okay, the first time was fast, but this time there's a delay. Now we can speed this up slightly using update client, but there's still a delay, and it's not going to work to change the animation right before the NPC attacks. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to change the animation after the NPC attacks. While we're at it, let's deal with that other limitation of having other melee attacks reset the animation. On the init function right here, we're going to overload the melee delay. Essentially what this means is he's going to use 1 attack, and he's not going to use another attack again for like an hour. So hits me once, he's not going to hit me again. What this is going to let us do is this is going to let us manually set the attack's animations to happen. Because we can cause, here, let's put it back to the, go back to the, there we go. Is we can manually cause attacks to happen by using swing main hand. So he's not attacking us right now, we're in creative mode, he's not aggro, but if we right click him, he still does the swing by using swing main hand. So we can use swing main hand and we can manually trigger damage events to avoid the issue of the melee attacks by essentially setting up melee attacks to not happen using this. However, we still do have the first melee attack happen. As you can see, he attacks once, but he's not going to attack again because his melee delay is so long. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use that melee attack event. We're going to start a timer off of it. Okay. So before we worry about how we're starting these timers and how long they're going to be, we're going to need to get some information about each attack. We're going to need this information to sync up the damage and range properly, and we're also going to need the information to sync up the timings properly. So the 4 bits of information that we're going to need are going to be the attack length, the amount of time we have to wait for when the damage comes out during the attack, because if you look at the attack animation here, the damage is not at the start, and there's still animation after the damage happens. Like the damage should happen like around here, or maybe a little earlier, around here, right? But there's still half of the animation to play. So we can't just start changing the model when the animation's halfway through. So we need to know the length of the whole animation, and we need to know the length of time to wait before we deal damage. So attack length, attack wait, and then we also need attack damage and attack range. These are the 4 things we're going to need for each attack. So we have 2 attacks, so let's make 2 of them. And I forgot to make each of these a variable. So attack 1 was the quick attack, so let's make the damage a little bit smaller. And then the range, we'll make that also kind of small. And then this was the big attack. We'll have the damage be a little bit bigger, and we'll just have the range be the same. Now we need to get these 2 times. How are we going to get these? If we look at the animation, our first attack, you can see here that has a length of 1.5 seconds. So that 1.5 seconds, that's 30 ticks. So that's done, easy, 30 ticks, cool. Now what about the wait time? It's going to depend on where we want our damage to come out. So let's say we want the damage happening here, 0.9 seconds. 0.9 times 20 ticks, that's going to be 18 ticks. So we want the damage here to pop out at 18 ticks. So 18 ticks, this is when we want the damage to come out, and the entire attack has a duration of 30 ticks. Let's do the same for the second attack. The second attack is 2 seconds long, so that's 46. And then where's the damage come out? Damage we want to come out probably when he's slamming down, so probably right there. So 1.75, that's going to be 35 ticks. So these are what we're going to need. When he does the melee attack, this is when he's going to start the animation. So we're going to want to start a timer, and when the timer finishes, we're going to have the NPC deal damage. Actually, let me set up these timers real quick. I'll set up all these timers and I can define what they're going to do, because then it'll make a lot more sense. So we're going to be using 6 timers to manage our 2 attacks. Timer 0, we are going to be using for triggering subsequent attacks. So this one, going to trigger attacks. Timer ID 1 is going to queue up the hitbox appearance of attack 1. Queue attack 1 hitbox. Timer ID 2 is going to do the same thing, but for attack 2. So queue the attack 2 hitbox. What timer 101 and 102 are going to be, these are going to be the actual attack hitboxes. So attack 1 hitbox. This one we're going to have it be attack 2 hitbox. And then what timer 100 is going to be is this is going to be when to load in a new animation after the animation has completed. Because remember, we have 2 steps. We need to wait for when we want the hitbox to come out, and then we need to wait for when the animation is over so we can swap to a new animation. So this one, load new animation. So what this means is in our melee attack here, we're going to want to start the timer, which corresponds with the animation that's currently active. How do we know which animation is active? The NPC's title. So here we can do get title. Now something important to remember is that titles are represented as strings. You can't start a timer off of a string, you need to start it off of a number. So we can turn the string into a number using parse int. So parse int of the title. So this title is going to return us 1 or 2 or whatever we're using. We can change these back to 2 now. We want this to be an instant timer. This will queue up the hitbox for attack 1, right? So this is going to give us 1. It's going to start timer 1 instantly, and then this timer, or timer 1, is going to prepare the hitbox. So this melee attack function, this is only going to happen the first time an NPC attacks. All other times, we're going to handle it with this, with timer ID 0. So false, because we don't want it to repeat. Attack 1 here, we're going to start another timer for 101, and the length of that timer is going to be the wait. Timer ID 101, and we're going to do the wait time. There we go. So after he attacks, he's going to start this timer, because this 0 is basically just going to make the code jump to here. We're going to start this timer, and then after it's time to deal damage, we're going to activate this timer. So this is where we're going to deal our damage. I've gone over this before in other tutorials. We're just going to do damage a simple way in this script using just get nearby entities. Or actually, we'll just make it even simpler and just do get closest entity. So the range here, we want this range of the scan to be the range of attack 1. And then we're just going to scan for players, so type 1. Now we deal the damage, so if it actually does find a player, so if victim, then victim.damage, and then the attack damage down here. The damage is handled. Now we need to have the script wait more until the attack animation is completely done before changing the new animation in timer 100. So we want to start a timer for timer 100 here. But how long do we want it to be? Well, it can't just be the length of the animation, because 18 ticks of that animation have already passed. So it's going to be the length of the animation that's passed minus what we've already waited. So we'll do length minus the wait time. So that means that timer 100 will be triggered exactly when the NPC's attack animation is finished. So melee attack, this starts the attack animation. Actually, we need to cancel this event so no damage is actually done. Right? This is going to allow us to delay the attack event. So no attack happens. We start the windup for the attack depending on which attack the NPC has loaded on him. That's what this does. This starts however long the wait is for that particular animation. Once that completes, go to timer 101, get what they're attacking, and we damage it if it's close enough. And then we start a timer to set a new animation. So here's where we'd set the new animation. How we set the new animation is by changing the title. So here we have to write a little bit of code that'll change the title. So let's just make it a random number. Okay, so this right here is just going to get a random number between, it's just going to get 1 or 2. It's going to give you 1 or 2. And then we can just set the NPC's title to that 1 or 2. Okay, and then just like how we couldn't start the timer with the string, we can't set the title with a number. So we'll just do num.toString. So this will turn that 1 or 2 into a quoted 1 or 2 so that it can be accepted as the NPC's title. Then just like we did up here, we want to change a little bit faster. So we'll use update client. Now is where we progress into scanning for when to do the next attack. Because we're canceling this and we're making it so that the NPC won't swing again by giving it a very large melee delay, we need to figure out when to start the attack ourselves. So we're going to do that using this timer here. So how we're going to scan to trigger our next attack is essentially the same way we're going to scan to do damage, except instead of doing damage, we're just going to start the other attack. So we'll define an attack range here, and we'll just make it 3 blocks. We'll have that be our scan here. If we find a victim, we want to start our attack. How are we going to start our attack? We're going to do it the same as we did up here. This will start the timer to cue our hitbox, depending on what attack we have. Now in order to start the animation, we just do npc.swingMainHand. So there's that. If the NPC doesn't find something to attack, we have to keep that in mind as well. So what we'll do in that case is we'll just restart this timer here. This means we have a pseudo repeating timer if we put our return statement here, meaning if it does start the attack animation using swingMainHand and this timer to start the hitbox queuing, it's going to return. It's not going to start this again because we don't want this to run again, otherwise it's going to queue another animation. We also need to throw this timer start down in here after it's added the new animation. Now with that, we just need to copy the attack 1 information to the attack 2 sections. Let's do that real quick. Change this to attack 2, then 101. You change this to, or not change this, copy this to 202. With that, we should be ready to go. Let's just set some housekeeping things up here. Let's clear the timers on the start so the NPC isn't spazzing out. Let's also clear the timers when the NPC dies so that way no hitboxes are generated after the NPC is dead. And with that, we should be good to go. Just double checking everything. There's no way I actually wrote it all correct first try, but we'll see. All right, let's do it a quick up and down. This slow scroll right here is for people who just want to skip to the end and copy the script. That's fine. It's totally fine. Okay, let's try it out. Okay, all right, we had an error. Expected. Let's fix the error. Victim is not defined. That means I probably spelled something wrong. Or I didn't initialize it to a variable. Okay, gotta do it here, gotta do it here, gotta do it here. Okay, let's try again. Okay, he's using one attack, the damage is coming out at the right time, and the animation is being cut short. Now he's using another attack, and the animation, or the damage comes out at the right time, and the animation's not cut short. So there you have it. That's using BlockBench models and Chameleon with custom NPCs to make custom attack animations. So yeah, that's everything I wanted to go over. If you have any questions, feel free to join the Discord. I'm answering them all the time. And yeah, that's it. Thanks.